Welcome everybody to tonight's Animals and Emotions webinar. I'm Cindy Myers. And if you'd like more information about me and my services, you can go to my website at www.yourenergyhealer.com. I do work with both animals and humans. And tonight we're going to talk about the holidays and how that can create anxiety and stress on our pets as well as ourselves, which then ripples out to our pets. So we're going to kind of talk about how the holidays can impact our pets. Maybe some ways we don't realize it would, but it can. And then some things that we can do for it. And then we'll end it with some demos at the very end. Okay, so before I get going, if you're having a medical emergency with your pet, please call your veterinarian. But what I can do is provide energy support for your pet to help their natural healing abilities to get to those areas that are in need and to boost their survival centers and to balance their energies. And the other thing that I would like to share is that for aggressive animals, you must have a qualified trainer to go along with my energy. I'm not a trainer. And so I do insist on having a good trainer to work with as a team to help modify the behavior. I can get rid of the trapped emotions and communicate with the pet, but it does fall on you to do some behavior modification as well. Okay. For those who may not know me too well, I have an alpaca farm in Oregon, Central Oregon, in the Willamette Valley area. I have a nice little 5 acres with 17 alpacas, 3 dogs, and several barn cats. And I did not enter into this intuitive energy business until later in life. I actually started my career as an engineer and worked on radars. And that was excellent training on doing what I am doing now. It gave me some of the basic tools and understanding of frequencies. And you'll hear me talk a lot about frequencies because that's what I pick up and sense in my body, both emotions and I also can pick up the physical stuff that's going on in your pets and in yourself. So that guides me in knowing where the blockages are that are causing some of the problems. So with that, let's go on and let's get into the meat of today. So, so how does holidays impact our pets? Well, you know, the holidays can do a lot of different things. It can create changes in our environment, right? Because some may decorate your house, so there can be furniture moving about. The tree can come in, lights can come in, all sorts of little doodads, can start some things getting removed and other things coming in. And some pets feel they come across as a little bit autistic-like, in which they know where everything is in your house. They know exactly where everything is in its place, right? And if anything moves, that is a disruption to them. It changes their order of things. And if there's a lot of things, then it's a very overwhelming. So it's kind of like a kid that's an autistic child that goes into a store or something and all the lights, it's just so sensory overwhelming. Now that's the extreme with our pets, but they can notice and it can upset some of them. I've had a number of pets that go, how come they moved my cat tree? And maybe they moved the cat tree in order to make room for the Christmas tree. So that was upsetting to that cat that their tree, their place that they like to hang out got moved, even if it got placed in maybe a even better location where they could look out the window better or something like that. Didn't matter. That upset them because something got moved and they weren't aware of it, and then replaced with something that smells. That's the other thing is if you're using a natural tree, it has lots of scents to it. It's been out in the wild, perhaps. There could be there could have been birds and bugs and all sorts of critters that lived in that tree. at one point, and on that, and your animal, whose nose is way stronger than ours, can be picking up those smells, and that can create different anxieties, like who is in my house, right? So if you have all of a sudden potty accidents in your house, that could be part of it. You know, they could be marking their territory. They will use urine quite often to mark and say, no, this is my space, right? So if you're all of a sudden picking up some potty accidents, it could be from overwhelming smells. And then we just might be using other candles and other smells that make the house smell really nice and pretty, but it can be overwhelming to our pets. So there's probably a lot of other things that could be going on too that changes in our environment. Then there's the emotional piece. You know, the holidays are sometimes quite stressful to some people. It can put us in an overwhelmed state, and that added anxiety and stress beyond our normal anxiety and stress, our pets can pick that up, and they can be very confused by it because they don't understand why. And then the other thing that can cause our pets more anxiety is, what if we go out of town during the holidays? Maybe you go out of town and that you can't take your pet, or you do take your pet, and that change is, you know, they may not understand why are they going away from their home and their normal bed and their normal routine, and then going into somebody else's house, even if there's a lot of love in there. If they haven't been there before, that could cause them a lot of change and stress. They don't know what's going on. If they're rescue animals, that can really push their buttons in thinking that, oh no, this is it. I'm getting dumped again. I'm going to get abandoned. So it can really push that separation anxiety and abandonment buttons. So those are a lot of things that can really come up with our pets. So how do we know? How do we know if those things are happening with our pets? Well, one indicator is they can be panting more. They're not just hot. Okay. Maybe it is heat and you have a higher heat, your heater is on or something, but sometimes that is one other indicator. They're not really hot, they're stressed. Pets will sometimes pant when they get stressed. Just like us, we kind of breathe more shallow and it can come off as, you know, this panting kind of a sound. So they might pant. Other pets might pace. They can get more anxious. They just can't find a good spot that they feel comfortable or safe in. So they're looking for a place to settle, and they just can't find it because they go here. Oh no, that's where the tree is, and that's kind of different and weird, and it kind of puts a different shadow and smell in it. No, I don't want to go there. Oh, I'm going to go into the bedroom. Oh no, they decorated something there, or they moved stuff that was in the house that was in the living room into the bedroom. No, I don't like that anymore. So they're going from place to place. You'll see them pacing and just not settling. Finding a place to settle as easily. They may whine more. They might get a little more whiny and trying to tell us that something isn't right. So they may use vocalizations more. They may mew more. They may shake. That might actually cause them so much fear that they could actually start shaking. They can exhibit some OCD habits, like chewing on themselves. And that's a very common thing, or over excessive grooming for cats. They might start licking themselves more and trying to groom themselves a lot more. That is a big indicator that there's a lot of extra anxiety going on. They might become more barking. Yeah, they might, and again, instead of whining, they may bark at anything that a different noise can just be, their startle reaction is, has increased, right? So look for those signs, or they just might hide. I need to check out. So they'll find a place, they'll go under a couch or into a bedroom or a closet or something, just not want to come out, or a bathroom. So they're looking for a den spot where they feel safe. And then of course the potty, which I talked about a little bit earlier, they could have more accidents in the house. So that is a definite sign of anxiety, that something is going on. So look for those signs that they're upset, and those can be some of your clues that your pet needs a little support, and reducing and explaining to them what's going on, which is something I can do for you. So Our pets can have emotions just like us. It's just that they tend to have less vocabulary, emotional vocabulary than typical adult humans have. They're kind of the equivalent of a toddler in their emotional vocabulary. So if you've seen a toddler have a temper tantrum, you know they can still have strong emotions. They just don't have as much broad of language of it. So anxiety, fear, abandonment, nervousness, worry, helplessness, depression, grief, resentment, jealousy. Those are typical emotions that come in to a pet unsupported. Those are very common, overwhelming, unworthy for pets that have been abandoned or rescue animals. Those are very typical emotions that I will release in a pet. So those are emotions that we can have too, right? But how do they work? And this is true for us humans as well as our four-legged and winged friends. It's true for every species pretty much out there. Emotions are just chemicals that our body creates to relate to an experience that we're having, or a memory, or a dream. We have them while we're dreaming, right? Your pets, if you've ever seen your pet running or crying in their sleep or mewing or whatever, they're dreaming and they're having emotions, right? So we have emotions all day long. And those emotions have a specific recipe to them. So if we're having anxiety, that anxiety has a recipe for itself. Now, I caution you, our English language is very limited. So anxiety can have a whole lot of different definitions to it. We just have one word to describe it, to use for it, but there can be a lot of recipes within that genre of anxiety. But it still all works the same. So our body creates this chemical and releases it into our body. Now, the fear-based emotions, like the negative emotions, abandonment, the grief, the helplessness, all of those emotions, they have a fear component. And when we talk about fear, we're talking about the fight or flight response system. And so they kind of trigger the same response then, which is why when we have a pet that is triggered by something, they create a behavior maybe around it. You know, if they get scared, they may bark at things that scare them, or they run and hide, or this is where they start chewing. A habit is created, and it's because our body, our I call it our lizard brain, tells us how to react to it. So the fight or flight response system has a lot of different ways of handling these emotions, but it's pretty limited. It has like three ways of coping with fear when it gets triggered, that fight or flight response system. It's going to freeze, it's going to run, it's going to fight. Okay, so it wants to pick pretty much one of those three methods of dealing when it gets triggered. So when one of the fear-based emotions gets triggered, your lizard brain is going to try and take over and say, this is how we need to handle this situation. So that's why some of your pets are more reactionary and want to become aggressive or bark or, just turn on to the fight response system. Then there's ones that, but again, it's just it's a fear-based response. Then there's other ones that might want to run and hide or run away. You know, if they get triggered in a storm, those are the ones that try and escape and run, right? Or they pace, the ones that are pacing, they're trying to run away from what is frightening. So it uses that other response. Or it just freezes, the deer in the headlight, okay? That's the freeze. And they just can't move. I would say most of our animals, that response is very typical for us humans. I find animals do more of the running or the aggression than the freezing. It happens, but I typically find more one or the other of the runner or the freeze, or excuse me, run or fight. Now, the positive emotions work a little differently because those are higher frequency. You hear I'm talking about frequencies like I mentioned earlier. And again, fear-based emotions tend to be very slow moving frequencies. And those like to get stuck in our bodies because they're moving nice and slow. And then they act like a magnet. So they kind of keep drawing like emotions to it. And that's how it becomes a physical issue because it gets stuck in our bodies. And in a way, the emotion chemicals work very similarly to food chemicals. When we eat and we process our food, it turns into a chemical that turns into energy, right? To be utilized by our body for some system in our body, right? If we eat more food, more calories than what we can process out, that we can burn off, those calories go somewhere in our body, right? We understand that process. Well, it's very similar with emotional chemicals. We have all these emotions all day and as we dream, but our body needs to process out those chemicals. If it cannot process out those chemicals, just like the food calories, those chemicals have to go somewhere and they too get stuck in our body. Okay. And that's where it causes a weakness because it creates a distortion. It's an actual blockage in our natural system flow of things. And it can get stuck in a knee. It can get, in a joint. It can get stuck in an organ. It can get stuck in our neck or our back or wherever it can land. And then it acts like a magnet. And so anytime you get a similar triggered state and you can't burn off those chemicals, that acts like a magnet and it goes into that spot, which creates a bigger and bigger blockage to that area until perhaps it gets so weak that it breaks, right? Or it has a problem. Now, our body can handle so much, and it's true for animals. It can handle so many of these emotions and it doesn't have any effect on us. It's like, well, I've gone out of town before and my animal never was destructive and never chewed up my shoes before. Now all of a sudden I went out of town and every time I go out of town, my dog chews up my shoes. I don't understand it. And it's like, well, those trapped emotions got bigger and bigger until there's like a threshold of what they can tolerate. And then boop, it went over that threshold. And so now it needs to get out those emotions. It needs to act it out. In this case, it was a behavioral thing and chewing up his shoes. Or another example would be, my dog was doing fine. There was a lot of stress in my house, but it seemed to be doing fine. And all of a sudden I noticed its feet were raw and then it was chewing on its feet a lot. Or my cat was grooming. It just all of a sudden started grooming like crazy. And it doesn't want to stop, just all day. It just wants to groom. And so it's because it was picking up all the stress in the household until it couldn't handle it anymore. And it started needing to get that energy out. So it's created the habit that some way was soothing to itself, but it was that OCD response, right? So we need to get rid of those trapped emotions to get it below the threshold. And hopefully that's our goal. But it's not just enough to get it through below that threshold, because guess what? Well, a little bit of extra stress and it goes right back over. So our goal is to get it below that threshold and give us some padding. So I want to get it below that threshold, nice, get you some padding under there. And that's where I have to work with you as the owner to be the eyes, because you get to witness and observe and see how they're doing. If you get improvement, great, that's awesome. And I never know. This is where I'm not psychic. I never know how many clearings I need to do in order to get us that padding. So it's really on you to kind of watch and see how it's going. If we want to see improvement. And then if we get anywhere near that threshold again, you see some indications that that anxiety is coming back. Boy, do we want to hit that fast. So we don't always go back to square one in helping our pets. So it's a lot of partnering and teamwork and supporting your pets. That's how I work. So here's some tips though that you can do for your pet. In between sessions, because there's a lot you can do for your animal, and a lot of it can really help. And it's not that hard. So the first thing you can do, and I know everybody can do it, is called breathing. Because again, when we're stressed, we tend to breathe very shallow. And our animals are very receptive to that. They pick up our our pulse rate, I guess. They can really hear or feel how we're doing. So if we take them to the vet and we're nervous, something they're not feeling well, and we're worried about them, and we're anxious about taking them and how they're going to react, and are they going to be calm on the car ride? All these thoughts and worries are running through your mind. So guess what? Now you're breathing very shallow, but you're telling your pet, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And they're saying, liar, because they're picking up your anxiety in your breathing. You're breathing shallow. So they're not listening to anything you're saying to them. It's garbage as far as they're concerned, because you must be anxious if you're breathing shallow. So the first thing, even if you are worried about stuff, if you can access your own breathing and do some slow, full, deep breaths and slow your heart rate down, when it helps you to get out of your lizard brain and into a more problem-solving brain, your bigger part of your brain. But it really helps ripple out that energy that's calmer, and your pet will feel that energy, and that might help relax them a little bit. So it really does make a huge difference if you're breathing. Again, I have an alpaca farm, so when my vet comes out to examine and treat one of my animals or whatever he might need to do, when I'm holding my alpaca so the vet can examine them, it's really important that I breathe fully, and my alpaca will stand there way more calm. If I'm not breathing, they'll get antsy, and I have to remind myself, oh, I forgot I need to breathe. I've got my knees locked or something. I need good energy flowing through me. That will help keep them calm. So even if I'm really worried about them, I have to focus on my breathing, and that does help me and it helps them. So breathing is your number one tool. Then I like to use peace and calm. The words matter. Our words matter because, again, every word has a chemical component to it. It's an emotional component to it. And so every thought, every word we use, that's why words matter, is that there's what words we choose to think of things. Our master chef in our brain is making the chemical component of that recipe and pouring it through our body. And then we act like little mini radars where we transmit out that emotion. It's going through us, but it's transmitting out, and then it needs to come back in. Okay, I'm just taking a second here because my ears are ringing. So somebody is coming in through here. I don't know what they want, but I'm trying to listen. They don't usually come in might wait till after, come in when the healing circle comes. Okay, guys? Thank you. Sorry about that. My guides are coming in. So try peace and calm. I like peace and calm. If you're taking your pet to a vet or they're anxious, peace and calm ripples out. That's a beautiful energy. It's very high frequency, which you think might be more agitating, but it isn't. It's very calming. So the higher the frequency, our animals totally pick that up and they just relax into it. They absorb it. And animals, this is where animals are much better at it than us. They like to go where it feels better. So if the energy that we're sending out is a feel-good energy, they're going to accept that better than the energy that they're coming up with for themselves, which is maybe more anxious and upsetting. So they will start responding to that part that feels good. So that's where peace and calm really is helpful. Again, with my alpacas, my males, if they get agitated, if I go out and I'm really upset, if I've had a bad day or something upset me and I get crabby, my males typically will feel that energy. Again, I'm transmitting out that energy of being crabby, and it's just to them fight. Okay, I'm upset, I'm angry. That to them is translated as fight energy, and they start fighting each other. And I don't want that. That's not one. I feel bad that I created that energy. So I take a few deep breaths, and then I send out peace and calm. 9 times out of 10, they stop like that because they feel the peace and calm. Or other times it's not coming from me. They just get irritated with each other and start fighting, and I'll send out peace and calm to them. And that feels better than fighting. And they go, yeah, it's not worth it fighting you guys. you, you brother, I'm just gonna, yeah, like peace and calm better. And they just kind of quiet down. I'm not kidding you, 9 times out of 10, they quiet down. So that's how powerful the energy is. And you can do it because you don't have to know how to do it or what you're doing. It's just picturing something that's peaceful and calm, breathing fully, and thinking it to them. Just send it out. Because again, you already are doing it. We're all little radars. So whether you know how to do it intentionally or hear it back, okay, whether you can communicate it and receive something back and understand it, that might be a different skill set, but you can, everybody can transmit out this energy. So peace and calm is a really good one. And then I like to pet my pets, nice, slow, gentle petting if they're anxious and upset. It's different than petting a little bit harder, even a deep tissue massage. That can be actually, if you have a higher anxiety pet, that can actually be introducing more adrenaline to them. And again, adrenaline to our body means fight or flight. And they don't need that. What they really need is the calming chemicals, the parasympathetic response system. That's the calming system for our body. It's the opposite of the fight or flight. We want to get those chemicals going through our bodies. And so I would encourage you to look into, if you have a pet that has a lot of anxiety, look into a modality called T-Touch, T-T-O-U-C-H. When this is over, I can type it into the chat box. But you might want to check that out. I'm not certified in it, but I use it a lot with my animals. It really produces those calming chemicals that we've been talking about. And it's something you can do. It's super easy. You can watch some YouTubes on how to do it, but it's just a very light touch, and it triggers the cells to move. So it can help with pain and discomfort as well as triggering the calming emotions. So it's a very, very powerful modality. But again, for our pets that are more adrenaline based, the ones that have the OCD, the ones that have a lot of anxiety, we need to help them learn how to use the calming system. And it's great too if you have if you've just taken in a new pet and they're not sure what's going on and working on the bonding with each other. It's a really good modality to use. It helps create a bond. It's, again, they go to what feels good. And if a person knows how to do something for them that feels really good, they're going to bond with you. They're going to come to you and ask you for more of it. I have a client recently that has a dog that was very bonded with her husband, and it was great. She's happy about that. But the dog really, she goes, I'm chopped liver around the dog. She just, when her husband has to go out of town, her dog got really separation anxiety, and she wasn't good enough to provide the dog any sense of peace. So I suggested this modality, and we did some clearings and all sorts of stuff, my stuff with the dog, but her regular using of the T-Touch really helped in starting a bond. So the dog would actually start coming to her more, and especially when her husband had to take off for a while or run errands, whatever, needed to go to work, the dog would seek her out and actually respond to her and enjoy spending time with her as well as her husband. So it was really powerful. And this wasn't just a new dog. They've had her for several years. So it was dramatic change between releasing of some of the trapped emotions by communicating to her and then teaching this other modality, or her learning how to use this other modality. So having as many tools in your toolbox are really powerful. And that goes to the stop with full intention, enjoy being with your pet. If one of my dogs comes up to me and wants some attention, if I'm not really very in the midst of something that I can't let stop right then, I do take a break and I just look them in the eye and pet them and give them a kiss and acknowledge that they're there. And that's usually enough for them. They're so happy. They're so easy. And you know what? I benefit from it too, because I feel their love And so we both totally benefit from this special, 30-second, a minute of time that we just shared with each other that was just fully directed on each other. It's just a very powerful, the higher frequency emotions, the love, the gratitude, the joy, all of those. They're magnitude stronger than the fear-based ones. So you really don't need that much, even though the more that we put in, the better. But it takes so little, and it makes a huge difference to them and to us. So take those couple minutes and really spend time with them. So if you'd like to experience some of these services and know your pet could use some of these clearings, I recommend a couple things. If I like using the quick cleansing package, I have a starter package. So if you haven't worked with me before, that's usually what I recommend. But if we've worked together for a while, then I like really using the 15-minute sessions. And in that package, you get 4 15-minute sessions. Because your pets really don't have a, they don't have a big, long attention span. Again, they're like toddlers. So, whoops, that was it. So we can get a lot done in 15 minutes. And most of the time, all we need to do is clear and rebalance their energy. So we can get a lot done in that 15 minutes. It's like having me on a retainer then. It's great for elder pets that have a lot of chronic issues, the arthritis and stuff like that. We may not be able to totally heal those areas, but we can give them a lot of comfort. So getting rid of those trapped emotions can be very important. The behavioral stuff, again, I don't always know how many sessions we may need to turn a behavior around. Or again, it could take a consistent one because there may be a lot of stress in the life, your pet's life, who knows what their background has been. So it can take multiple sessions to get them on track. And then if you are going away on with the holidays coming up, if you're going out of town, you might want to check out my virtual pet sitting service. I check in on your pet. I release some of the trapped emotions, the confusion of what's going on. I communicate to them when you're going to be home. And then I just kind of keep releasing some trapped emotions. And it's good for a week. And if you're gone for a weekend, it works for that, but up to a week. And I'll check in on your pet at least 3 times during that week if you're gone for the whole week. And it's good for up to 2 pets. Again, it doesn't take long for me to check in on them. You also get it's good to sign up, give me at least a week to get it so I can get it on my calendar. 2 weeks is even better, but because I want to get a 15-minute phone session with you, especially if we haven't worked together when you've gone out of town, so I can understand what your normal anxiety, the pet behavior is experiencing when you go away. That helps me know how to help them. And then I can definitely put it on my calendar of how often and when I'm going to, I put it into my calendar to check in on your pet. And it's optional if you would like an email or text check-ins of what's going on when I tapped into your pet and seen how they're doing. Some people, no news is good news. They don't want to know, they don't want to hear unless there's something they need to know. Something is very upsetting to your pet. But a lot of people want a little, it helps you to relax knowing that somebody's checked in on their pet and help them feel a little less anxious. So those are a couple of my services that you might want to check out for your pets. Some events coming up. I have a very special intuitive listening webinar. That one's geared towards humans. That's going to be December 29th. And I thought it'd be a very powerful time to help us prepare for setting our intentions for 2022. Let's clear some of the old baggage of this past year, because we've all had plenty of stress this past year or two, right? So it's good to let's clear the clutter of the past year out of our system and really get it focused on what we would like to draw to ourselves for next year. And then the Saturday, I'll be doing a healing circle at noon Pacific time. And next Wednesday is also just the healing circle, no webinar. And of course, no healing circle on Saturday, the 25th. So Merry Christmas to all of you who celebrate Christmas. And then the next weekend, I will do, since it'll be January 1st, I will actually be doing a Healing Circle that day at our normal time at noon. And I really thought it would be very powerful for us to start the year off with a bang or with a calm. I don't know, whichever way you want to look at it, but really seal that intention for the year with a very deep and meaningful healing circle. So we'll be doing that on January 1st. So with that, I'm going to close up my screen here and we'll get to some demos. Let's see, I got Liz. Hi, Liz. If you can unmute yourself, I have Indiana and Austin here. Yes. And I'm going to share their picture. Oh, they're so cute. I love their ears. They're cute ears. So tell me what's up with these guys?
So they're both doing pretty well. So Indy is the one in the front, and she is 17 years old, and she's a rescue. She's doing great though. She's
17 years old.
17 years old, ruling with an iron paw. Just having a great time running around, telling everybody what to do, which is great. We love it. She has had some health things that have come up, and then they seem to resolve. So we've been really lucky. They thought she had kidney disease, and then we changed her diet, and her blood work has gone back to perfect. So that's really good.
Excellent.
And then with Austin, he is our younger dog. We've had him for about 3 years. He is very sweet, very loving. I constantly make the joke that I'm really glad he's a dog and not as we would call him in our house, a real kid, because I feel like he would drag us to his beatnik poetry events for hours on end about his feelings. So just his feelings and his communication and what's going on with him is always a question. Not that he's hard or difficult to deal with at all. He's fantastic, but it's just he's pretty funky. He's has a very different vibe than any other dog I've ever had. So okay. So that's kind of where they're at right now. And
okay, well, let me see who wants to talk first. Indiana. Okay. Yeah, I figured she would. Yeah, well, not surprising. There's some arthritis going on. Especially I'm feeling a lot in the neck area. Probably a little discomfort in the jaw region. Again, not surprising for a 17-year-old dog to have teeth and
right, absolutely.
A few issues there. And again, I'm just scanning, going down the back and a little bit in the lower back as well. So again, for these elder guys, the T-Touch is magnificent to keep that energy flowing and just help them feel a little bit better. So I'd really highly recommend checking out a YouTube on T-Touch for dogs. You'll love it.
Perfect.
It really will help. But let's see what I can clear for her. Little frustration. I'm going to clear that. Oh, not yet. Some discouragement, clearing that. Oh, she gets a little dizzy sometimes. Did you know that?
No.
Maybe when she first wakes up. But I don't know if you notice, when she stands up, she may just stand still for a little bit before she gets going.
No, but I'll be watching for that for sure.
So I don't think it happens all the time. It just sometimes. It might be because of the neck.
Right.
A little bit sore, so I'll clear that. vulnerability. A little bit of movement. Frustration, clearing that. And defensiveness, clearing that. And you said kidney issues. So I'm not feeling anything really out of sorts. So that's good. But let me just clear them just as a matter of course, because certainly there are blockages in there. Again, it's under that threshold, which is what we want. So we want to keep it there. So let's go ahead, since you know that is a condition that it has been there before. Let's clear it because there are trap emotions in there. Kidneys. Give me a second as I clear that. Is she wishy-washy at all?
Wishy-washy meaning like
it's kind of like indecisive, but it's like she chooses something that no, I don't want to do that. No, this one. Yeah.
That's a great question. She is she knows her own mind, and you keep saying frustration, and I feel like I'm like, she's definitely frustrated that we don't know exactly what she wants the second she wants it. She's she's like 9 pounds of Empress. It's adorable, but
okay. Well, who's wishy-washy then? Is it
probably Austin?
Okay. Maybe that's okay. So that's maybe part of her frustration then too. Is it he just can't make up his mind, or he's coming through? So I didn't get as much release out of the back as I would like. Kind of asking her how she does with Austin, and she, oh, he's all right. Bit overwhelming at times.
Yeah.
So there's a little insecurity or worry just because she's a little vulnerable, knowing that she's a little more fragile, and he can be, well, her word is he can be dumb sometimes.
He definitely can.
And bonk into her or something, not mindful of what he's doing. So she does get a little anxious and worried when he gets into that, maybe the younger, puppy state of zooming about or goofball.
Totally.
So just be aware of that, which is normal. My guys are like that. My older one, because I don't want to play with that crazy thing right now. Exactly. So I step in when I see it and tell them to knock it off. And then I get to be the playmate. But all right, so let's check in on Austin and see what is going on with your beatnik boy. Oh, and I did just get a nice release. So sometimes they will hold on to a trapped emotion until I communicate their worries to you, and then they release it. So I think that finally released some of the stuff that I felt in her back.
Awesome.
More awesome. So more open. So what you might see with her is she should be a little brighter, a little more. You should see her maybe be a little more fluid in her walking and moving around. Those are some of the indicators that you should see that just feel a little more comfortable as she moves around. Let's see. So Austin, what's going on with you? A little confusion at times. So clearing that. Not sure what he's confused over, but
the world.
The world. Lack of control. Interesting. longing. Interesting. I don't usually get that in a dog or animal, but what are you longing for? Okay. His energy just like wants to burst out.
Yeah.
And so there's this longing. It feels like he has to contain himself, and it's so hard.
Yes. Yes. Very.
Just wants to just like have 100 acres and run.
Absolutely.
Totally, and fly. He goes, I wish I could fly.
Oh.
Does he like to jump off of things or?
He's kind of like a corgi sized dog, so we try not to let him jump so he doesn't.
Okay. Well,
but he but like this, if you have like we give him certain treats, and if he sees them, like if I don't get my hands like in the right position fast enough, he'll like absolutely jump up and grab it out of your hand, and but like in a fun, playful kind of way.
right.
And he, yeah.
Yeah.
And
well, in his mind, you may not let him, but he would love to just be able to just run and jump off of things and fly. And yeah, he keeps showing me. He goes, I wish I could fly. Oh, well, in his mind, he thinks he's really fast. Like he's Mr. Speedy, and I could race anybody and be faster than everybody. I don't think he knows he has little legs.
Yeah.
Oh. He's got definitely a big heart.
Yeah.
He thinks he's very smart too. Not sure if that's necessarily true either, but he thinks he is.
He is very he's one of those rare animals I think that I've had in my life where like when you say words like he should know, he knows them. Like if I'm like, I'm gonna go check the mail, or it's time for me to go upstairs to my office, and I don't use the command, like he doesn't matter. He's totally with you, and it's right, like in the right place at the right time. And
okay. Well, I think some of it is he's just young.
Yeah.
But he's very intuitive. So I think he's going to be, you could do practice if you were wanting to learn to do communication with animals. He'd probably be very tuned into you, but he's just a little bit immature still. So, but he's tuned in that way. Mm-hmm. And Indiana is too, very tuned in to you guys, your energy. But he's definitely picked stuff up. He probably is going to be more sensitive to your emotional state.
Yeah, absolutely.
It might be a little more upsetting to him right now because he doesn't know how to help you.
Right.
And then it comes out as being kind of goofy.
Totally.
So he's just not sure what to do. So then he might become more of a clown. So you might have to watch some of that, but it's okay. That's how they work. But I think as he matures more, it's gonna be a closer bond.
Love it.
Because he definitely is more in tune. I don't know if he's an old soul, but usually when they're that intuitive, they're more of an old soul. But maybe just because he's so young, I'm not picking up that that might be a step away from that.
Yeah,
but
right.
And I'm not sure if it's just because he's so young still. He's one of those that isn't, he's going to take his time to mature, which is okay. Enjoy it while it lasts, because he's just going to be a puppy for a while longer, but then he's going to mature and settle in more, and still he's going to keep that goofiness for a while, but he's going to be very receptive to your emotions. So he can be a very good buddy through dark times or challenging times that you may have, because I think he's really tuned into those emotions. So it's also a good thing to learn how to use our pets more wisely when instead of just letting our emotions just he'll be a sponge and they can get sick.
Right.
They want to make us feel better. And that sometimes is the only way they know how to make us feel better is just to like act like a sponge. And we don't want that because they can really get physically ill too. So, but there's things that we can use them for that do help without dumping on them.
Yeah,
so that's where the tea touches and just hugging on them and being mindful that and telling them it's my issue to figure out. I just need you to be goofy and loving. And that's what I tell him, because if he can read you that I'm going to the mailbox, you could tell him that he'll get it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So he doesn't absorb that energy. So that'll be really important. Not right this second, but well, you know what? My Aussie was about that age when he got pancreatitis when I was really stressed out. During a really challenging time because he was being a sponge. So they can still at this age take on a lot. So that's an important tool for you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing these cutie pies. 17, that is awesome.
Yeah, these min pins are, she was just a random rescue that we found, I just fell in love with her like on an internet picture and I was like, I want that dog. And $90 and like 7 bus rides later for her, they brought her to me in like a rest stop and handed me a dog. And I was like 25 and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had a dog since I was like 9. What was I thinking? Like looking at me and I'm looking at her and I was like, oh boy. But she's amazing.
Yeah, but what a wonderful life to share with each other.
Totally.
And obviously she's enjoying it because she's not ready to go anywhere. So she's still going.
Exactly.
That's great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And Terry, I have Lulu here. Are you there, Terry?
Yep.
Right.
Hi. I have Lulu in my lap too.
Oh, okay. Well, we can just get rid of the picture and see if we're live.
That was a couple days ago, that picture.
There's
and
ideas.
Here she is now. She had surgery 3 weeks ago, and she had a cyst under her armpit that bursted. It was literally like the size of a golf ball. And she's healing. It's a long recovery, but it's been, she's immobile to begin with. And now, she's just become very needy. And she just, if I put her down, she starts whining, and I know she's hurting and I know that it's a lot for her to go through, but she is healing, and I just want her to know she's healing.
Okay, so we'll clear some stuff and help boost her immune system so we can get the healing going. So some discouragement, gonna release that, and crying, releasing that. Fear, clearing that. Unworthy, clearing that. Vulnerability, clearing that. I want to boost her first chakra. That's her survival center and immune system area. Boost that really good. So you do Reiki, and
I have been given her Reiki. Yes.
Right? And so definitely first chakra is I always start there when I'm doing an animal, unless something else is telling me to, but
okay.
First chakra. And I like doing the 2 hands over the first chakra if I can. You may not be able to if you're holding her, but that's where I start, and that really gets both energy, just a really strong energy and grounding, and it's just stronger. If I'm in person with an animal, I like to do
Right.
that. Really boost that first chakra and getting it, the grounding going and just the energy flowing. Then I can do the two, start doing hands up the various chakras after that. But unless I pick up an area in one of the organs or something that really is out of balance, then I do.
Her kidney values have been elevated, but we've changed her diet, and she gets 50 cc's of fluid every day. And I've been giving her oatmeal, baby food, oatmeal, squash, green beans. I syringe feed her, and she's now eating on her own. That started a couple of days ago.
Good.
So yeah. So I think that she just, is really just playing this whole thing out. She loves it.
She's no dummy. She's no dummy.
That's right.
She knows how to train you.
She does. She really does. She like runs the whole house here.
Yeah.
The other
smart.
dogs feel so neglected, but they're not,
Yeah.
They know that she's going through something right now.
Yeah. And it's okay to give her all of that because that's helping her heal.
Yes.
And it will be a challenge though when she is feeling better because she's going to want to keep it.
Yeah. She also just started barking.
You'll have to wean her. Oh, well,
her bark came back.
Yeah, that's a sign that she's feeling better.
Yes, thank God.
Oh, okay, so we'll rebalance her kidneys and we'll do some more during the healing circle too for her.
Okay.
But we got some of that moving, and so you should see again. Keep an eye on her eyes. They will tell you a lot of how she's feeling.
Oh, they do. Yes.
So if they kind of look, they're going to tell you she's not feeling great. And then you want to, again, use your Reiki and boost her energy system. But hopefully she's on her way of recovery. Yeah, when they're just more unable to move around, our bodies are meant to move. So
yes,
that makes it
she
harder.
rolls. She rolls everywhere, but she used to scoot, and that's how she got the blister. Mm-hmm. And it was so tucked in that we didn't see it because her little arms are bent. But yeah, she's just taking her time healing. Now all the other dogs are barking.
Yeah, something's up there. Somebody's talking to us. We don't know.
I
know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for seeing her.
Yes, my pleasure. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop the recording if we're good.